So, the year is 2006, and you're building your first PC. You've got an Athlon X2 64-bit, dual core, 4 gig of RAM, a GTS 250, maybe an SLI if you've got a little extra money. If you're lucky, you have a 1 terabyte hard drive. Most people, 250 gig, 120 gig, no solid state, and you want to play Half-Life 2 Episode 1 or Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. And you've got a nice DFI LAN party motherboard. This has almost nothing to do with that, but it does have a little bit to do with it. So this is a special package I got from eBay, and inside are, well, two DFI AMD systems. And they're not AMD X2 64-bit. They are 64-bit, but they're not X2s. They're much newer than that, and they're pretty cool. So if you remember DFI LAN party motherboards, make sure you hit the like button and leave a comment down below because not everyone remembers that era of PC gaming and stuff like that. But this is a little different than that, and it's really cool, and I think you'll like it. Got a bunch of hardware to go along with it on the table. I'm gonna unbox these, show you what's what. I've already got one set up over there. Hopefully you can't see it too well because it's already running and doing stuff. So I'll show you that one later. But in the meantime, we're gonna get this one unboxed. Ah, two boxes inside, so not gonna scratch up my table and try to do this on the ground. We'll just use one of these. They're both the same. So these are sold brand new, and at the time of this video, the seller has about 50 in stock, and I don't expect them to get any more. So get it while you can. And these are going for about 110 shipped. But keep that number in mind, $110 shipped. So we have retail packaging. Like I said, they're brand new. Forgive me, let me adjust my camera here. So, brand new. Get power cord, standard. Box of accessories. What's in here is pretty cool. And then you get the system itself. Fun packed. So this is a DFI industrial PC. DFI stopped making LAN party motherboards and overclocking motherboards, and they started doing stuff like this. I mean, I guess they always kind of did stuff like this, but uh, this is kind of all they do now. And on the front, you don't have much. You have a power button, reset, a little pin. You'd have to use a paper clip, and then a hard drive activity LED and power LED. On the back, you have a 250 watt power supply. I believe this is 250 EPS, not EPS, 250 watt bronze rated. You have dual NIC, one Intel, one Realtek, quad USB 3.0, quad DisplayPort output, which is very interesting, and onboard audio. And to get inside the case, there's two screws on either side. You have two here and then two on the other side. So I'm going to attempt to take them off without stripping them because the last one, they're on very tight. Even though I was using the correct size screwdriver, they are really in there tight. So I'm going to do our best. Nope. We're going to need to use our flat head to get a little bit more This is what I had to do last time. Once I get them out, just don't over tighten them. I ordered these yesterday, and they were here today. Now, no guarantee that they will ship them that fast for you, but I do live fairly close, so they're only one state over, but it's still impressive. It was nice. So that's it. And the top panel just slides off. Like that. I'm gonna set that aside. You can sit down here and get a closer look. So inside we have a top of the line 2nd gen AMD APU with Radeon R7 graphics. I believe there's, I have to look at the spec sheet, but I believe there's 8 GPU cores in this. So not a whole lot, but it's more than enough to drive 4 displays at 1080p. These will do 4K at 30 hertz, so just keep that in mind. And it's a quad core. There's no hyper-threading or whatever AMD's equivalent is to that. It's just a plain quad core, but it's got 2.7 gigahertz base speed with 3.6 turbo. And Passmark score is about 4,400. So not a whole lot, but great for a machine this size. Another cool thing it has AMD's equivalent of AES-NI, so you can run pfSense on this. And it already has dual NIC built in, so you can use one for WAN, one for LAN. This would make a great pfSense box. It would make an even better pfSense box because it has a full X16 PCI Express. And it is on a riser. Hopefully you can see that. It is on a riser, but that's not that big of a deal because on the board it's full X16, the riser is full X16. So you can fit cards in like this. This is a Pro 1000 VT. I just removed the full bracket, but it will fit with the full bracket on, just like this. So it would be a neat little pfSense box. And for hard drive, you can use the onboard mini PCI Express for mSATA. Hopefully, again, I'm sorry if you can't see that, but doing my best here. There's a mini PCI Express for mSATA. You can go up to 1 terabyte or whatever the largest mSATA they make. For pfSense, I would use like a 30 or a 60 gig, something like that, something small and cheap. And it has 4 onboard SATA. And the cool thing about the onboard SATA is that normally mSATA will disable one of your onboard SATA when it's in use, but in this case it's not. So you have 1 onboard mSATA plus 4 onboard SATA, and yeah, so it's pretty neat. You have a full-size 3.5-inch hard drive bay here with SATA cable already pre-wired and Molex to SATA. So you don't need to 3.3 volt mod these if you're going to put like a 8 or a 10 terabyte easy store white label in here or something like that. I don't know why you would do that, but maybe this is, maybe you found a use for like a mobile media server or something like that, and you just want to put one drive in, put this in the back of an RV or something like that, and have a mobile media server. Who knows? Um, for cooling fans, you have a 50 mil on the CPU. You have a 40 mil exhaust for the PSU back here, and you have another 40 millimeter exhaust on the what I would call the left side of the unit. Now, I powered this thing up as it is stock, and it's loud. But the good news about that, the loud fans are the CPU fan and the 40 mil exhaust, not the power supply fan. The power supply fan is silent. and it's a 250 watt power supply, so it should be more than enough for anything you can put in here, including GPUs, including external SAS cards, hard drives, whatever you want. You can load this thing to the max and it's going to be plenty. That little box over there, I'll show you later. I have this one running at 100% usage on 4 cores, max turbo, which I think is like, I don't know, it's like 2.8 across all cores turbo or 3.6 on one core. And it's pulling like 53 watts from the wall. So, nice thing is this PSU doesn't put out any noise, even at full tilt. So, we just have to replace this 140 and then this 150 here. And I'll show you how to do that. It's really easy. As far as the rest of the board, it is standard ITX, so you can take this board out and put it in something else. You could put a different ITX board in here if you really wanted to. Although you're going to be cramped for space, this is kind of designed, like DFI put all this together. It's DFI's motherboard, DFI's riser, DFI's chassis. So your mileage may vary with that, but it is standard 24-pin ATX, although it doesn't have the 4-pin or the EPS connector. The power supply does have it though. It's in here somewhere. At least I think it is. Yeah, I think it's in here somewhere. So you might be able to use that, but again, your mileage may vary with replacing the board. As far as other board features, there's not a whole lot else to say. It does have onboard optical and coaxial digital. Like there's a little header down here, so if you wanted to use that, you could buy an aftermarket. If you're an audiophile or you're interested in audio at all and you want to make a little audio server, you can buy one of these audio boards and it's got coax digital and optical output. I don't know where, you can mount it right here, but then you're blocking your PCI Express X16. So you might want to take the board out and mount it somewhere like on the side of the case or something like that. But you could have, digital output for audio via that header. Has an onboard regular audio header. Onboard USB 2.0 port here. Hopefully you can see that. So if you want to boot Unraid or FreeNAS or ESXi or anything off the USB and leave the USB permanently in here, just shove it in that port, and then you'd have to unscrew the whole case to get it out, which is kind of nice. So you don't have to, you can hide your installer and be more of a finished system that way. It does take SODIMM memory, so that's something important to note. And we're not going to be able to use ECC, but DDR3 SODIMM, so DDR3 or DDR3L. I've tried all kinds of RAM in this thing, whether it's 800 megahertz all the way up to 1600 megahertz, and it's all worked. So yeah, just kind of buy whatever's cheap and whatever capacity you need. This system is limited to 16 gig of RAM, so 2 8 gig sticks. Probably best to match them, and that way you don't run into any issues. But one thing to note is that by default, the BIOS will reserve about 1.2-ish gig for the GPU. So in that box over there, I have 10 gig, and its Windows is showing like 8.7 or 8.9 or something like that. So it says 10 gig installed, 8.9 usable. Just something to consider. So I have an 8 gig and a 2 gig stick. Yeah, so as far as that goes, that's about it. Oh, the heatsink. As far as I know, it's not replaceable. You can take it off and repaste it if you wanted to, but I haven't found another heatsink that is this size. So if you do know of one, shoot me a link, but this heatsink is more than adequate. I have that one running over there, again, full tilt, full CPU usage, 100% on all cores, and it's like 60 Celsius at, on each core. And again, I did the fan swap already, so the fans aren't putting out as much air as they normally would. So yeah, just something to consider. In that case over there, I bought a small 40mm Noctua, although I think I'm going to end up recommending the fractal design fans because They make both 40 and 50 mil, and apparently they're quieter. So here's a 50 millimeter fractal. This packaging is awful. So here's a 50 mil fractal, and that would be what we need for the CPU. So it's exactly the correct height and screw location. So we will replace the CPU fan with this one and make it a lot quieter. The CPU fan headers, actually just the fan headers in general, are both 3-pin, so they're voltage regulated, not PWM regulated. Again, just something to consider. And I think that about covers it for everything. There are two, like I said, Molex to SATA connectors, and the reason there's two of them is that, where's my box of accessories? In the box of accessories, driver CD, trash. You get these guys, which are conversion mounts so that you can mount two 2.5-inch SSDs instead of a single 3.5 hard drive. So that's pretty cool. Although you would have to get another SATA cable because this one only comes with one SATA cable. But that's really, really nice of them to include that. And then here's all your hard drive mounting screws and stuff like that. Like I said, everything's already pre-installed, so you're good to go. As far as taking this apart, actually, let me show you what cards can fit in it before I go ahead and take this whole thing apart. To put a expansion card in, you notice there's not really much here on the back, but there is one Phillips screw and it's right here. And you need to take this Phillips screw out because that's part of the locking bracket. Use my flathead again. These screws are really in there, and I think it's partially because the case is painted and then the screws get screwed in after. They feel kind of sticky, but once they're out and then you screw them back in, they're fine. So you just remove this little tab that kind of sits in there. And you can remove the expansion slot. So you can see this is painted after because this is just a little steel thing and then it's got black paint on it, which is kind of funny. So now that we have our expansion slot open, I will show you what cards can fit. This is a EVGA 8400GS. They make a GT 1030 that's the same as size as this. So if you want to have a 4K home theater PC, grab that GT 1030 for between $70 and $90. Again, it'll be linked in the description. Actually, everything will be in the forum post in the description of this video. Sorry about that. My microphone died. So yeah, grab the 1030. Put the GPU. Grab the 1030. Use HDMI 2.0 to your TV. Pass through audio, and you're good to go. And you can see fits perfectly. If you want to use this as a NAS, you can do that, believe it or not. And what I would do, say this is a 10 terabyte drive. I know it's a 2 terabyte drive, but just say it's a 10 terabyte drive. And put my 10 terabyte drive in here. And I would use this for Unraid, believe it or not. This would be my 10 terabyte parity drive or 8 terabyte parity drive, whatever size you want. Take your LSI 920116E, plug this guy in. Does fit, barely. And then you have 4 SFF 8088 SAS or SATA on the back. which could be 16 drives direct, or if you use an expander of some sort, you could have, I don't know, 32 or 64 drives or however many drives you want. But doesn't that just nicely fit in there? Pretty cool. Now, when you're putting expansion cards in this slot, something you need to consider, the lid, while it does fit on perfectly, if I put it on correctly, the lid does fit on. There's no airflow up here, and the expansion card's sitting right up against the top. So you may want to take a Dremel, which you may have gotten from Tech Deals, or a hole saw or something, cut a hole maybe about this big, put some mesh over it or something, just to get a little bit of air going over whatever card, especially if it's a card that requires a fan, like the GT1030. Actually, you know what? Especially if it doesn't require a fan, because like this little heatsink needs some sort of airflow over it. This is designed for a server with active airflow going across it. It's just something to consider. Of course, whatever expansion card you use is going to determine whether you can get away without not modifying the lid or something like that. So just something to consider. And of course, like I said, sorry, there's no full-size bracket on here. I don't know where my bracket went, but the full-size quad port Intel NICs will fit just fine, especially lengthwise is something to consider. I have a dual height GT1030 passive cooled, which I've been thinking about modding the lid so that I can run this guy in here for like a small little gaming PC. But this guy fits because it's single slot, and it looks pretty cool too. But as you can see, kind of sticks out a little bit. Looks kind of funny. It has like a little mohawk or something like that. Anyway, so there's a lot of possibilities with this build, and that's kind of the reason I like it. One other thing that I have on the way and I haven't gotten yet, I have a Quadro P400 coming, and I already have a P2000 that's downstairs somewhere. I gotta find it. I believe the P2000 will fit. I was doing a little bit of measuring online, haven't actually gotten a chance to fit it in yet. The P400 will definitely fit. That's also single slot. Um, the P400 is limited to 2 hardware transcodes by the default NVIDIA GPU driver. Now you may be able to hack that and get that working. So one of my plans for one of these boxes is to get a P400 in here, see if I can get that driver hack working under Linux or Unraid, and see how this thing does. Now, of course, you could always buy this $110 box, buy a $350 P2000, drop it in, and you're good to go. But um, buying a P400 for $80 or less might save you a lot of money, and you can probably get similar performance with a little bit of power saving with that guy. So there's a lot of options with this box. You just need to put a little bit of time and effort into deciding what you want to do with it. I've got that original box 3 days ago. I've been testing it, and I like it so much, I bought 2 more. And I'm probably going to buy 1 more, and I'll have 4 of these. I think I'm going to use one for pfSense, replace the existing pfSense that I have, which I don't mind the one I have, but having it all contained in one box would be a lot nicer. And then maybe I've got 3 10 terabyte hard drives I haven't done anything with. So I'll probably put one in each and see if I can do some sort of cluster or something like that. I don't know. There's just so much you can do with it. It's so cheap. And I mean, a fully kitted box with hard drive, mSATA, SSD, couple sticks of RAM. I mean, you're still looking at well under $200. And then you can just throw whatever expansion card you want in. So these are really cool boxes. I'm sure they're going to sell out very quickly. And I'm sorry for the long video and maybe a little bit different with the head cam. But just to close out the video, I'm going to show you what I have set up on the other one. Just show it to you running. So hopefully you can see this down here, but that's showing 50.6 watts at the wall. And really not a whole lot to see in this guy, but hopefully you can hear that it's not very loud. And I've got a fan resistor on the stock CPU fan. Got a Noctua down here. And 2 sticks of RAM, M-SATA SSD. Got a USB 3.0 Wi-Fi because I don't have network, like hardline networking up here. And right now, I'm just ingesting some media on Plex, and not ingesting it, but like processing it because I did install Plex on Windows 10 on this guy. And let me see if you can see that. Sorry if I'm looking down too much. So I did install Plex on this guy, and it's just like I added a couple libraries. It's pulling from my NAS and it's processing it. So I'm sitting about 37% CPU usage over 4 cores, and it's really fast. So like you turn it on, it goes beep beep, and then straight into loading windows. Just like that. And I already missed the BIOS. So you kind of have to, as soon as you turn it on, just hold the delete key and hope that you get into the BIOS. But they're super awesome, and the case feels very durable, so you can probably put this thing anywhere, and maybe even a garage. I'll probably use one for a garage PC once I get the workbench and workstation set up the way I want. Have a few monitors plugged in, and it's you can just do anything you want with them. They're really cool. So hopefully this was a good overview. I'm sorry if you're watching this in the future and you want one of these and they're now $500 brand new, because that's the way things go. That's the way things go when you see deals like this and you wait, or you just see it too late. But hopefully you check this guy out and some of you get a good use out of it. If you have any questions about this, feel free to ask in the forum, ask on Discord, Reddit, the usual channels. And I don't think this will be the last you'll see of this. I'll probably do a lot more testing with this. So look forward to that in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next video.